Hi, B Icon family. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and watching my videos. I did want to come on and say hello. I've been really busy the last 4 weeks. This video is for the Think Media Challenge. Please accept my humble apology. I am really late uploading this video, but I was determined that I was going to get this done. I attended all of the sessions, which were really great. I really liked the last one the most because the gentleman, I wrote his name down, he talked about taking back your mornings and your evenings. And that was something that I was doing and I still am doing. So I'm late because I got the call from one of my closest friends that her mom passed from cancer, and it really kind of threw me from recording because her mom was very dear to me, and we shared the same birthday. And the last time I was with her, which was before COVID, we had such laughter, and I will always cherish that last time that I was able to sit with her and enjoy her, and I will always cherish the times that we had her. So as you can see, I have on one of my positive apparel items that I'm going to be selling in my e-store coming soon. This is my Swarovski Crystal Speak Love campaign, and I know that in the challenge you asked Sean to tell what we would make a video about, and I talked about my homeless, I want to call it my wilderness season when I was homeless. And I didn't know if I really wanted to open up and, really go that deep and tell about what happened to me. But I realized that I needed a dose of courage, which is something that I put on my vision board. And I wanted to be able to help others know that there is a way out and that you have nothing to be ashamed about. And I just wanted to briefly touch on what happened. So back in 2006, I bought a home for my daughter and I. It was not the first home that I purchased. I had purchased 2 previous properties when I was married, but this was the first property that I was purchasing as a divorced, single, self-employed woman. And in 2009, after 2006, leading up to 2009, the economic crash was encroaching our territory, and we didn't understand what it was. How long is this going to last? How widespread is this going to be? And so unfortunately, my small business could not withstand the economic collapse. My clients couldn't come for their appointments anymore because, if you guys remember, everything shot up through the roof. Electricity energy costs shot up through the roof. Gas prices shot through the roof. Like everything you could think. Credit card payments shot through the roof. And I had clients calling saying, "Hey Mel, I can't come. I got an $800 gas bill." Or, "Hey Mel, I can't come. I just lost my job." Or, "Hey Mel, I can't come. My credit card bill is just crazy." And it just became like a avalanche. And because my business was generated off of people's extra money, people didn't have any extra money anymore. And so in the midst of that, I had received notice from the bank that my mortgage payments were going to change, and it was changing to an increase that didn't make sense, because you don't get a cost of living raise to substantiate the hundreds of dollars in extra payments that the bank was notifying me about. And I was like, hey, time out, wait a minute. I don't have a variable product. I have a fixed 30-year mortgage loan. So I went and pulled out that big, thick folder, and I started to investigate what was going on. And, the first 2 pages of the thousands, it seemed like pages, is what they call your HUD-1. And in the top right corner of your HUD-1, it tells you what type of loan you have. And I had a fixed 30-year mortgage. But as I began to examine the numbers and the line items associated with the numbers, and I started to question things. And I remembered when I was dealing with the loan officer, who was horrible. The realtor was horrible. I mean, it was just an awful, awful experience, because I learned that I was dealing with a pack of wolves, a bunch of liars, manipulators. All they wanted to do was to get me to sign so that they could all get paid. I remember asking the loan officer, I said, why do I have 2 mortgages? Why do I need 2 mortgages? And she told me some cockamamie story that I can't exactly remember now, but I said to her, wait, this home fits within FHA guidelines. I'm not understanding why I needed two loans. And long story short, I end up at settlement. And, here we are, 2 years later, and everything is just collapsing economically. And I pull out my HUD-1 and my settlement papers, and I start to go through it. And I'm like, well, who got this money? And where did this dollar amount come from? And what is this fee for? And so as I began to research, I realized that I was ignorant of information. So I enrolled with the state of Maryland loan origination course because I wanted to learn how they did this. Because what I found was that a financial instrument such as a mortgage, it cannot perform in 2 ways. It's either a fixed product or you have a variable product. I had both. My HUD-1 said it was a fixed product, but in the belly of those documents, there was the paragraph about the adjustable amount. And I was very angry that I had been taken advantage of. So I take the loan origination course. I'm the only Black woman in the course. I think I was the only Black person in there. There were more men than women in there. And when we got to the subject about the chapter, I should say, about predatory lending, that's when I got sick on my stomach, because I realized that they had done this before. They knew exactly what they were doing. And when I started to study that chapter, and I was like, how did they do this? And it was like, you have to create an artificial market value. So that meant that your, what do you call the people? The appraisers were in on this. All of them in the banks were in on this. Everybody on Wall Street knew what they were doing. They were taking advantage of us and for their own greed. And I just remember thinking, this is illegal, right? I'm paying more for this property than it's worth. I have settlement papers that have 2 different functionalities. How did the settlement company not see this? How could they allow this to happen? They knew. Everybody that got paid when you sign, they get paid right away. The only delay in payment is when you do a refinance. I think you have to wait 3 business days before the bank will pay out. But when you're purchasing a property, as soon as you sign it, the money's on the table. And I wrote everyone from the White House to the Speaker of the House to many of the Congress members, that I wasn't even their constituent. I'm like, this is happening everywhere. And if I have this type of settlement package, I'm sure somebody in your district has this type of package. I blasted then, Barbara McCluskey, and I was like, where's your voice in all this? You want my vote, but I don't hear anything about what you're saying. What are you going to do about this? How are you going to help us? And at the end of the day, she did respond. She, knew that I was upset. And, she said she tried, when they were deregulating Wall Street and setting up this casino style, lending, and the problems that, was going to be had because of it. But at the end of the day, trying to get help was a basic runaround. And I remember one day I was watching the news, and because I'm paying attention, right? I'm like, something is very wrong. And I knew we were really in trouble when AIG was like, we need a bailout. And I was like, oh God, if the insurance company needs a bailout, we're in trouble. And I remember this particular day, I wish I could forget it. George W. Bush was the president, and he was entering a room where he was going to be speaking with the press. And the directive was to turn off your recording devices. And someone didn't. And I thank that person that didn't. I don't know who you are, but I want to thank you for not turning off your device, because what I saw sickened me. And every time I see him, I think about what I'm about to tell you. He walked in the room and he said, Wall Street got drunk. Wall Street got drunk, and they talking about this and houses, and Laura's looking for a house. And I thought, wow. I did not vote for him. Thank God. But the thought that the President of the United States would tell the press to turn off their recording devices to laugh about Wall Street having gotten drunk. I don't know how you sleep at night. I don't know how you do that. Because of Wall Street greed, they swept the floor. They took that money and they put it in their own pockets. And to think that we have lawmakers that repeatedly give tax cuts to the wealthy. These people don't want to pay taxes. But you want to cut social programs, things that people need to help them survive. You laugh because Wall Street got drunk and I was taken advantage of. I'm being triggered about what I call that wilderness experience now because of what is happening in the news today. Again, you give tax cuts to those who don't pay taxes, and you want to cut social programs, and you want to threaten our economy and domino effect that throughout this world. It's sickening to me. What I suffered through, losing my business, my home, everything. I wish it had not happened. I fought hard to keep it from happening, but there was no help. There was no help. I remember one day what did he call himself? He was a mortgage insurance investigator, called me. And he identified himself. It's been so long ago now, I can't remember his name. And he said, I'm looking at your file, And I said, well, who are you? And he said, I am a insurance investigator. And he was hired by the company that insured my loan. And he said, I said, well, what are you investigating it for? And he says, well, the bank has issued a claim for the insurance policy to pay out for the default. He said, but in looking at your file, he said, there's something wrong here. And I said, it most certainly is something wrong here. I said, I have a HUD-1 that says I have a fixed product, which was my understanding, because I'm not going to buy a variable product, right? But in the belly of the documents, instrument is written as an adjustable. And he was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean, what? Don't you see this? And he told me that, he said, you're self-employed, right? And I said, yes. He said, you know what I don't understand? He said, why they didn't do a no-doc loan on you? Because I did full documentation. So while all this noise was in the media about people lied about how much money they were making, they knew that they couldn't afford these houses. Look, that wasn't about everybody. But that's all you heard. You didn't hear about persons like myself who were self-employed and did full documentation about their finances. There was nothing I disclosed. This gentleman told me that my taxes weren't in the bank file, that the loan officer who worked at the bank had been fired. I guess whoever else was involved with whatever they were doing, the bank had fired them. And they now knew that something was wrong. Oh, they said the loan officer, all of the files that this particular loan officer touched were under investigation. And I said, well, you know, how can you help me? Because I've been paying more for this house than it's worth. I don't understand how you go from a fixed product to an adjustable in the same document. And he was like, I don't know. And he said, your taxes aren't even here. And I said, what do you mean? He said, your taxes are not in this file. And I did full documentation, and this guy knew it. But yet there was no help. No matter where I went, no matter how much I said, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, there was just no help. And I'll never forget when the bankers were called into the congressional hearing, and they were just sitting there like, you know, I don't know what to tell you, you know, this is just what happened, and, you know, just no recourse. And Wall Street got drunk. They swept the financial markets, they swept the floor, and they left Main Street with the bag. And so, you know, now in this time where we're coming out of the pandemic and trying to get back to some sense of normalcy, there's going to be a dig out because of the pause. And these same people with wealth that own apartment complexes, that own companies, that own, they do not care about what is happening to the consumer. All they care about is, can you make your rent? Can you pay your cell phone bill? And if you can't, I'm going to start the process to throw you out. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn this off. And it's sickening because these very people don't pay taxes. These very people, they know that people are in recovery mode, trying to find livable wage jobs because the minimum wage is disgustingly, you can't make it. You will live in poverty. You can't make it. Unemployment, 6 months. How do you do this? And at the rate that it's, I think DC is, what is it, $444 a week without taxes in the District of Columbia. Nobody talks about these things because for some sick reason, those that keep giving financial breaks to their donors and friends, they want to keep painting out the majority of the public as wanting to sit around and collect a check and buy TVs. You can't take care of your household with this little bit of money that you peter out, and then you want to tax that. So it's really an unfortunate, disgusting time that we're seeing here. And I have found myself constantly triggered here lately about my wilderness experience. Now, I do want to say this. I learned a lot about how the system works and how it doesn't work. I learned a lot about myself. I was too trusting of people. And I learned that people don't show you who they are until they do. People can disguise their nastiness, their venomous selves until, they're ready to expose it. And I remember feeling deflated. You know, it's like that scene in Braveheart. Such a good movie. When Mel Gibson's character realizes that his friend betrayed him. And he just fighting so valiantly. It was like when he saw the mask or whatever the thing was the guy had on come off, it just zapped him. And I have felt that. I know what that feels like, to just fight and fight and fight. And you just can't fight anymore. You know, it's like, I don't have any more to give. And it just wasn't what Wall Street did. It just wasn't what our Congress people did. I suffered through a really, really ugly divorce. And I remember I was in my home and I go to the mailbox and I have a letter from, was it the state of Maryland? Or was it the IRS? Was it both? I think it was the IRS. And a 1099-C had been filed against me for $30,000. And I was like, what? I don't owe the IRS $30,000. What is this? What is this? You know, I do my taxes. What are you talking about? I don't owe you $30,000. I didn't report $30,000 worth of income. So, of course, this information goes to the state of Maryland. And because I held an aesthetics license and a nail technician's license, my licenses were flagged. So when it was time for me to renew my license, I couldn't, because the IRS said I failed to report $30,000. They reported it to the state of Maryland, who then said I failed to report $30,000 in income to them, and they flagged my licenses with DLLR. So I couldn't get my license renewed. And what is this? So once again, I start doing the research to find this out. And when I was married, my husband wanted to take out a second no, a trust, a second loan or something like that on our home. And I was not in agreement with this move. I made my thoughts about this very clear to him. I don't think this is a good idea. We don't need to do this, but when somebody wants what they want, that, they always got the BS for you, right? And I remember just I was so sick of him. I was so sick of him. And I was just so tired of, always at odds with him when it came to the finances, just all the time. And, he had every reason why. Ready. Pressure, constant pressure about, we got to do this, got to do this. So, when we get to the office to do the settlement paper, I find out that, the ladies are very familiar with him. Oh, he's brought lunch to him. And I'm thinking, really? Isn't this interesting? They're so happy to see him. And I'm just thinking, okay. Oh, come on, sit down and, and hi. And, and I'm just like, it's not what you think, boo. But okay. So right before I signed my name, because he could not get this money unless I signed my name because both of our names were on the home, I looked at him in front of the woman, I don't know what her title was, and I said to him before I signed it, I said, this is your debt. I am not in agreement with this. You are going to be responsible for the repayment of this money. I said that. There was a witness to what I said. But see, that embarrassed him. Oh, don't say anything to embarrass him. Hurry up to make me be quiet. And when I received that 1099-C and researched what happened, this is what I learned. Soon after our divorce was finalized, he married again. He wasn't man enough for me, but go ahead, boo. And he filed bankruptcy. And in his property schedule, he abandoned the property. And I guess when you file bankruptcy, information is sent to your creditors, and the creditor for that $30,000 said, oh no, you don't get to abandon this after you've taken the money, done whatever you want to do with it, because the check went in his account. He managed that $30,000, and I never, ever controlled not one dime of that money. So they came after me. And, so it was just a compound of just being taken advantage of. And it caused a lot of damage. It took a lot to work. It took a lot, and if it wasn't for my faith keeping me, and if you watch some of my other videos, I talk a little bit about my butterfly here. I don't think you guys can see it because I need to work on this there and there. The day that I took that picture, I'll talk to you about at another video, but I wanted to just briefly touch on what led up to me becoming homeless. And I want to say to persons that are in that situation, facing that situation, to have faith and go deep in your faith. Like that tree planted by the water, those roots go deep. You've got to go deep to keep yourself going. I learned a lot about people that I thought I could trust. And I learned a lot about myself that I needed to be more cognizant and mindful about people that were in my inner circle. And I had to learn to stop ignoring red flags. No matter how long you've known somebody, people tell you who they are. It slips. And if you really stop and think about it, the flag gets your attention. And you go, did they just say that? But then you keep going with the conversation until you understand the fullness of, I'll give you a good example, someone that I loved like family, I had to close the door on when I saw and heard what was being said about me. It hit me. This person used to call me many, I'm gossiping. And I would say, stop gossiping. You know what God says about that, stop. But I realized that this is heavy. And the venomous of gossiping, I shed a many a tear. A many a tear. But, you get to that point where you exhale. And I did. And I realized that I need to move on with my life and I need to close these doors because these aren't healthy interactions for me. I can't, the trust I thought I could have, can't trust it. And then I started to think back and I was like, there was a flag. There was a flag. And just with people around me, just everywhere around me, there was a flag. There was a flag. And I was like, my God, I ignored them, but I remember them now. So you may have to clean house. I did. And this is where Speak Love came from. It came from the venomous of gossip that I endured. And I remember, if you don't have anything nice to say about someone, don't say it. And so that's where Speak Love came from. And I'll go into a little bit more about other situations that I went through where, again, this is venomous, backstabbing, hatefulness. But it's the great fall of man, so what are you going to do? Be guarded, be very careful, trust your instinct. If something doesn't feel right when you are taking care of financial documents and terms, pause. They're going to push you because they want the money. Pause and don't be afraid to walk away. Have courage. to trust your instinct, because I have learned that it keeps me out of harm's way. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit more, but I just wanted to come on and put this video up because Sean, I meant what I said. And I'm also going to do what I said about the lip treatment that I have incorporated and how it's helped me. So that'll be a separate video. But for right now, I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to say thank you very much for listening to me. And please like, click, share, and subscribe. All right, guys, take care. Remember to be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. Be kind to others. Love on yourself. And speak love, speak love, speak love. All right, thanks. We'll talk again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.